Welcome to The Lost Signals Discusses Film and TV. Using the revolutionary Manzur-Ramosi Thurlow scale,
or MONS,
we scrupulously review these art forms with an emphasis on narrative structure. Join us for another entertaining episode.
Good evening, and welcome back to The Lost Signals Reviews Film and TV. I'm Chris Morgan, here with Jonathan Ian Manzur.
Hello.
Scott Thurlow.
Join my supergroup.
And Stephen Ramosi.
How are you?
And tonight we are talking about 2018's A Star is Born. We do not know yet if this is an Oscar contender.
It is. Pretty much.
But by the time funny thing is, by the time this airs, we will.
True.
Yeah.
So anyway, Ian, do you have a funny logline for us?
Where else can you see Andy Desclay, Madame Gaga, and the voice of Rocket Raccoon?
All in one film.
Exactly.
Good question.
Indeed.
Outstanding. Mr. Thurlow, would you like to describe the plot?
Certainly. So yeah, Bradley Cooper plays a sort of rock country star named Jackson something.
Pollock, I think.
No, that is not correct.
I think it's Maine or something.
Sure. Yeah, I think that sounds
that's
right.
correct.
But regardless, Jack or Jackson. So he's on tour and he's set up to be a heavy drinker / alcoholic early on, and he sort of comes off of a gig, tries to find some more booze, wanders into a drag bar, it seems, that is doing karaoke night, and happens to see not a person in drag, but Lady Gaga's character, Allie. Now you got me doing it. Who is singing there and is sort of like not enamored per se, but he's very impressed with her singing and just decides to hang out with her. They go for a drink. They sort of share a little bit of their life stories with each other, and he basically on a whim almost invites her to come on tour with him to join him, and she sort of wavers at first but decides to go, and he calls her on stage and she just kills it with singing her song. So then that sort of puts her on the map, and they start having a relationship. She starts becoming quite well known and noticed, and a manager approaches her in order to sort of offer her a deal. And that sort of puts a strain a bit on the relationship. Well, of course, as well, Jackson continues to drink throughout. And it's just a story of them like trying to be pop stars as they sort of diverge. Like he is not really liking the direction that her label's pushing her, sort of more like kind of Katy Perry kind of shit. Like almost like real Lady Gaga kind of stuff. So they sort of like waver up and down. They're in a good place, they're in a bad place. And eventually they sort of settle down. Lady Gaga's, Allie's going on tour. She invites Jackson to come join her, but he decides instead to commit suicide because he has been told that he's a drag on her career by her sort of scumbaggy dick manager, and he decides to. It seems as if that feels he's compelled to, in order to let her live her life and let her be free and better without him. And then the film closes with her singing the song that he wrote for her at his funeral, and it's sort of touching, and that's pretty much it. Sort of like the rise and fall of their career and lives, the highs and the lows throughout.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it. I'll let you guys take over if you got anything else to add, or
No, that was a pretty good
how you gonna score it?
description. There were the two things that I stuck out of my mind that you didn't mention were, one, her punching a cop in the beginning of the movie.
Early on, sure.
Doesn't
Sort of doesn't really matter
Enough. No, it's not. But it was just a fun little scene.
Moment, yeah.
Because he's being a dick to Jack, and then Jack completely embarrassing the shit out of himself and his wife at the Grammys.
when she's up for a Grammy. Yeah.
Right after she's won a
That's
Grammy.
a painful scene.
It's a brutally painful scene.
Yeah.
If you don't like awkward scenes, go get popcorn.
Look away,
at
as
that scene.
some people in this room did while we were watching the movie.
I was gonna say, didn't Rich? Wasn't that when Rich left for the kitchen?
Yes.
A bunch of you did.
I'm surprised Ian
I
you didn't
didn't.
get up and walk
Well,
out.
anyways.
I know those bug you too.
It's because it wasn't awkward it's awkward in a completely different manner than what I'm uncomfortable by. Because I think this is an unflinching look at
Certainly.
depression and alcoholism that comes from it.
Yeah.
And because Bradley Cooper is a charismatic guy, and I'm rooting for. Even maybe it took me a little while to really start rooting for him.
To warm up to
But
him.
once I did, I was really invested in their relationship and their mutual growth. and then to watch the flaws start appearing, and then the fracturing of their relationship, and him falling more and more into, because at a point he falls in love with this woman, and she provides the outlet he needs to for both artistically and
Sort of
for mental
personally,
health reasons. She's his crutch, and he doesn't need the alcohol anymore at certain points in this. And then when she starts becoming successful in her own right and is not there as much, it hits back hard.
He sort of falls back into it.
Oh, it's such a...
It's pretty tragic, for sure.
Because you're watching what you know that he's a good man, and that he's succumbing to this. It's I think what's really effective about this film.
No, that's a very fair point.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of what I'm going to give plot. I might give it a 2 because there were it's a long movie and there were points where it felt like a long movie to me.
Yeah.
I don't know if
I
you guys
agree.
felt the same way.
I do agree to a bit.
And there were points where it's starting to lose me, especially in the middle. It sagged a little bit at certain points. I thought. So I'm probably going to give plot a 2 for this. But feel free to try and convince me otherwise. It's a strong plot, but it's not as there as I wanted it to be.
So this is not a musical, but it's
thankfully
has musical elements to it. So, what would you say? 20 minutes of this is musical productions?
Yeah, maybe 20 to half an hour. There's probably like 5, 6, maybe 7 songs, counting the end one that are performed.
There's a lot in this, and they take up a good amount of time each, and sometimes full songs are performed. So, they have a full narrative structure with the added burden of having musical numbers in between
inserted. Yeah.
So it does feel. I don't know if it worked perfectly, and I don't know how they could have changed it.
Right.
But my ADD definitely hit.
2 of my favorite movies, and one has been on rotation in my house lately, are Amadeus and Purple Rain. And this movie, and Purple Rain's got flaws because a lot of the acting, but not Prince, but Apollonia. But this to me seemed to combine the best and most tragic elements out of both of them. In Purple Rain, spoiler, the kid bottoms out but pulls himself out of it. But in Amadeus, obviously, Mozart is on a self-destructive course, and through the antagonism, his depression. So to me, it combined very well 2 of my favorite movies. I was really impressed with Madame Gaga's acting. I really thought this was going to be more of a Bradley Cooper vanity project, but there was a really good...
There's a nice balance, I think.
But he really, over the course, really switched focus to her, and that his decline, it wasn't focused so much on him, but as Ian said, she became a crutch, so it really, they shared it, and then at some point she kind of took over, and I thought it was a really well-balanced movie. I loved every bit of it, and I really got annoyed when they're took her away from the piano, and they're that shithead producer's oh, you have to have dancers, and it's just why? And the other thing is, well, because that was part of the thing with Purple Rain, is the girl groups that had to be in the lingerie and everything, and have backup dancers, and also I thought it was interesting that Lady Gaga was talking about, the character Allie was talking about her nose and everything, and that Lady Gaga spent at least the first part of her career behind so much makeup.
Sure, there's some meta aspects to that.
Yeah, I had no idea. It wasn't until later on in her career that I knew that she is such an accomplished songwriter, that she really had all this stuff. And I'm watching this and going, God, I assume that she, likes the pomp and circumstance, but by the same token, I really enjoyed watching her at the piano just singing. I'm giving this a very strong 3. I loved this movie. It was sad, and it was tragic, and it dealt with depression, I thought, very well without hitting you over the head. I really love this movie. If I brought up 2 of my other favorite movies, this is definitely...
So it's very funny because you mentioned the part where the backup dancers and when the manager comes in. I really like Bradley Cooper's style of music, or the main character he plays, and watching him mentor Lady Gaga's character, and then seeing her convert to pop off of, I guess, country rock.
Yeah,
So
right.
From that to the pop, the pain he's going through, I'm feeling while watching this too. Because I'm like, oh, I really loved your duets and your playing with each
performing songs
together on the stage, and now you're betraying who I become accustomed to who you are. It was very effective, but unfortunately, I'm going to give it a strong 2, but not a full 3.
Yeah, I would say a lot of that maybe it's shipped over to themes, like that aspect to it. I'm looking at a very strong 2 as well, just on a full 3. I did enjoy it. I clearly was not as enamored with it as you were, Chris, but I totally understand coming from that, sort of your musical background, why you might be more into it. I think it was a perfectly fine plot and narrative, as you guys said, but yeah, you're right, because they had to insert like a bunch of songs, while that was pertinent to the story, it did sort of pad out the movie a bit to me, but certainly very strong 2. It was well done overall.
And there's one little ephemeral part that I loved. There was an interview I heard with Alana Correa, the Thompson twins, where the interviewer is like saying, "It's great that you could express yourself. Most of us can't do that." And she's like, "No, most of us can. Whether it's like we write a letter or talk to a friend, everybody's got some kind of artistic outlet, whether or not they realize it or not." And there's one part where Bradley Cooper was like talking about how everybody in this bar has got a bit of talent. Because people have said that, to me, or it's like, oh, it's so good that you can do music or write, or, as we're all, you guys are all writers, we're writers, I think. And the thing is, it's like, no, I was telling my mom this. I was like, no, everybody's got a talent, and it could be no matter what it is, whatever brings you joy. And I really appreciated having that part in this movie because I think that's very, very important.
Mine is murder.
Huh?
Still a talent.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen,
If you were more talented at murder, you wouldn't be telling everybody about it.
Yeah, I was going to say, man. But, I really appreciated that aspect of it. So
Sure, I feel you, but I'm sticking with a strong 2, but I totally see a 3, and that's fine.
And, Steve-O, would you like to discuss themes then?
Sure, let's talk themes. So we've already talked a little bit about themes. The alcoholism that Jack is dealing with throughout is a major one. Not only the alcoholism that he's dealing with, but also that Allie's, Lady Gaga's character is dealing with as well, like his alcoholism.
Well, yeah, it sort of bleeds over to his
and how that affects all of his relationships that he has in life. That one being the specific one that we're actually looking at in this movie. I think it does a good job of talking about that and just kind of dealing with his lifelong depression and the issues he has with his father. There's a lot of family issues that they talk about in this movie.
And his brother as well, played by Sam Elliott.
Exactly. You get to meet his brother, played by Sam Elliott, who's like much older than him, and you see Allie's father and the entourage that he's always there with. And it's kind of interesting seeing all those like different family dynamics in this and kind of the different places that they came from, what they have in common, what they have, and what they don't. But you can see that like both of these characters have like strong music is a strong thing in both of their backgrounds. Her father is always talking about how he could have been Sinatra or whatever, and his father was a musician, and his brother was a musician. He's a he's this big famous rock star. So like kind of the idea of like fame, I guess, pushes him to be more of the self-destructive person that he already was. So there's all of that in there, and I'm sure there's more, but I think that this film does a really good job talking about its themes.
Just quickly, could have been a Sinatra instead of the Andrew Dice Clay that I am.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Oh,
good.
Andrew Dice.
The film does not let you forget it because he doesn't.
He does a good job not being Andrew Dice Clay in this movie.
That's
though.
true because we didn't recognize him until halfway through. Somebody else pointed it out.
Yeah.
But fair enough. But no, like you're right. Like all that certainly. I think as I think about it and as you were talking, that this movie actually juggles like a number of themes. Like everything you said, yeah, but also sort of that kind of tying into that, and you sort of implied it just before, is that trying to keep your identity as a person and as an artist in the music, in the industry.
Yeah.
And sometimes like you're pushed to do things that you're not like comfortable with or don't feel as it's the expression you want it to be. But hey, that's the business, right?
Mhm.
Like if you want to keep doing this, you want to be a big star, you want to be in the big stage, you have to do this and that and do it this way. So I thought that was very nicely interwoven, as well, of course, as their relationship when they're building a life together, and then the strain that what I just said puts on it, and as well as Jackson's history and problems and how he's dealing with them in a very unhealthy way. So yeah, I think it's all woven very nicely. It doesn't slap you in the face with any of this stuff, but it's certainly there, sort of at the forefront, but again, not punching you through the screen, right? Like themes here. But I think it's very organically and naturally sort of portrayed throughout. So I will give it a very strong 1 on themes.
So I'm going to specifically talk about one aspect of that. You have Jackson's depression, which is established that he's been depressed he tried to commit suicide at 13 years old. He obviously has issues there. And again, I mentioned earlier but what I find fascinating is really I've gone through severe depression in my time. There's a selfishness that develops with that where you can't see how other people see you. And I don't think, even though he does rely on Allie, I don't think that he can see how Allie loves him. He knows it exists, but that's why he's like, I'm going to kill myself because I don't want to hurt her.
Right.
And that is such a strange thing to see, especially that as the audience, we know how much she loves him, how much she's willing to sacrifice for him, but he just can't see that. He just sees himself all through his own way of things.
And sort of makes it more tragic even on top of
absolutely.
the actual events. That's a good point.
Allie herself isn't just she has obviously issues with how she looks at her own beauty.
Yeah.
And
and her self-image,
and like that has, whether it's her father, who I think in best intentions is like, my baby could have been something if she wasn't she was more beautiful or something like that. That affects people throughout time, and you can definitely see it in her actions, and that also allows that shady manager Rez or whatever his name is prey upon her more and more because she's like, oh, I am beautiful, and it's again never heavy-handed. It's always kind of a very subtle thing to it.
Yeah.
But so that's what I just wanted to say, and I think it's very well done.
Yep.
So I'm going to give it a 1.
I'm going to build on what you said because as somebody who had severe depression as well, having to remind myself that my friends actually like me for me, and to this day I can't sleep past like 9 a.m. because that was a symptom of it. So all the little details, like because when he tried to commit suicide, that he said that the ceiling fan had been there for 6 months. So you've got the apathy of his father in there. And then he had the caretaker of his brother. But the one thing they had, and again, they didn't hit you over the head, which is going to be a theme of here, is that she was kind of a caretaker to her father, not to the same extent.
Sure,
but she came home and the first thing she's like, the house is a mess. You guys are sitting there smoking. You left the butter out. So there is an element of that she, in a way, is a caretaker, not to the extent that Jackson's brother was, but she had that capacity in her as well. And from having known alcoholics and being depressed and other things, there is always a caretaker at some point that you lean on, and it's the devil's in the details with this movie. And I think we've all hit that over the head, and I just wanted to build on what you said, and I'm giving this a very strong 1.
We did absolutely opposite of what we're giving credit.
What'd you say?
Do it like the film does and not like us.
No, we're hitting it over the head and beating it to death.
Yes.
Exactly. We're not a good representation.
But that seems it's a one all around
No
for
stars
them.
all
are
around
being
there,
born
yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
The opposite of a star is being born. That's what's happening.
Stars are being
The
perpetuated.
stars are going out.
The
Stars are
stars are
exploding.
going out.
Anyway.
And it's to me with antagonist, and I think antagonist is pretty closely related to the themes.
Exactly. Yeah.
That it is depression, that it is, ourselves, to a certain extent, and to a very superficial extent, the little shithead manager who doesn't even deserve to be
He
mentioned.
was like a sub-antagonist, right?
But he was the catalyst that pushed Bradley
Yes.
Cooper over the edge. He was the "Hi, your wife's not going to say this to you."
Right, and that's what
which-
pushed him, of course, to his decision at the end.
So he betrayed Allie, and he is a viper at the wrong time. But
Yeah. He's sort of the worm tongue, kind of.
yeah, but he was actually a symptom of the greater antagonist of it. He was the catalyst that finally did it. So if we are going to stick with, thematically saying that, self-destruction, depression, all these things, I would consider the antagonist as well. So I'm not going to go into it because I said a lot of it in themes. So I'm going to give this a 1.
I agree.
Yeah, I mostly agree. I just want to maybe tack on that sort of, as I said, also the pressures of the lifestyle like that they're in the career that they're in, which also like basically exacerbate the problems that already are there that they have as people. So I think it's all sort of folded into one big glob of antagonists, and I think it was very effective and it was portrayed quite well.
Yeah,
I felt the characters were feeling what they were feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like everything kind of braided itself in together quite like perfectly in order to make this, really antagonizing structure that the film
like that.
had against mainly against Bradley Cooper's character. Allie is almost antagonized by his own
But like sort of by
issues,
extension.
by his own issues as they manifest themselves. But like he is the one that has to actually like live in his head, But yeah, I agree. I think I'm going to give it a fairly strong 1 for antagonist.
Hell yeah.
Okay, and Ian is on to you with protagonist.
The great irony, if it wasn't for his alcoholism, they would never have met.
True.
Yeah, I mean, it's extra tragic
Yeah.
as we keep pointing things like this out.
Wow, that's true.
Jackson is a really complex figure, a good man with his demons, and that I at least felt very connected with at varying points in this. But there are moments of it where I went, like, it channeled people I know who are alcoholics, people like myself who are going in the troubles he's going through in his life. I thought it was Bradley Cooper, correct? Yeah, did a fantastic job.
The Bradley Cooper.
Yes, the voice of Rocker
The
did
Bradley
a
Cooper.
fantastic job in this. And then I would also say that Madame Gaga is a protagonist as well, and she's very talented. She's a much better actress than
Than people probably give her credit for,
Yeah.
you might say.
than I gave her credit for.
Sure.
Prior to this, for no justification whatsoever, aside from I guess actresses that become, singers that become actresses. But I thought she did a very good job in this. So yeah, I have nothing like. Great job, guys! You get a 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. For the most part, that there's almost 50-50 split. They are a couple, and they even technically get married. I didn't mention that, but
Yeah.
so like it's certainly both their stories, and you're following like when they're together and when they're apart, what's happening to how they're each dealing with it. And yeah, like they both did a pretty damn solid job. And I mean, I was sort of neutral to Lady Gaga like coming to it. Like I didn't dislike her, but I didn't think she was amazing. But I think she did a pretty fucking solid job in the film, and Bradley Cooper is perfectly fine as well. And yeah, so like they're very believable characters. I guess we'll
Yeah.
say that,
Mhm.
especially given all the things and the issues that they're dealing with as we just laid out. So I'm definitely giving both a very solid 1.
I also think that it was Lady Gaga exercising some demons from her own
Yeah.
career trajectory.
Like we said,
Perhaps.
certainly it seems as if there was
Yeah.
some real life elements put into this, or at least her portrayal of this character
Yeah.
and the circumstances.
It's definitely both of them, the power couple, Brady Kuga.
God.
Oh God,
Jackson Alley.
you heard it here first, ladies and
Anyway.
gentlemen.
Charlie.
Shit.
But yeah, no, they both did a terrific job. I knew Bradley Cooper was a good actor. I didn't know what to expect from Lady Gaga because I'm fairly certain this is her first big acting role.
Well, to be fair, she was in American Horror Story, which yes, is a television series, but
alright.
she has acted before in other things. Is all.
Fair enough. Either way, I didn't know what to expect from her, and she did a bang up job. She's really good in this.
And she can fucking sing, of course.
What
So
do you-
like that helps a lot.
What do you think? Who's better, Lady Gaga in this or Eminem in 8 Mile?
God.
I haven't
I
seen
never
it.
saw it.
I haven't seen it in
Really?
such a long time, so
Yeah, I was
I don't
gonna
know.
say I wasn't overly impressed with it at the same time. That was okay.
it doesn't matter. I'm giving
give this a 1.
them both a 1 as
Yeah,
well.
and the one thing you mentioned, the not overplaying this that could have easily been overplayed. The reason he got married, I cringed because I'm like, he's doing it just to put a leash on her, but he really did love her. I was waiting for the point where he was going to cheat on
Or
her.
start controlling her or something.
Yeah, and it never happened. There was so
fair.
much reality in here. There was no need to add that bit of artifice where like he would have an affair or she would have an affair, or that
That's true. We were like, oh, she's gonna definitely bang the manager.
Oh,
and,
I
like,
thought
shit
that he
like
was going to make a move on her for sure, and I'm glad that they didn't do that.
Yeah.
'Cause it
Yeah,
was so,
I agree.
like,
It
it
would've
was
been-
so obviously
It would have
predictable
been a cheap move
that
if they did
I
it. Yeah.
immediately predicted it. I'm glad it didn't go that way.
Yeah, so I mean, you reminded me of it, so I just
Yeah,
wanted
and
to.
there's one final thing. You might say, Chris, that it wasn't. They didn't go into Marlin territory. I know you like using
Yes.
that phrase,
Yeah.
and they avoided that. So
Exactly.
And it could have very
yes,
easily done that.
Right, handled worse than this, it would have fallen into that trap. But
Mhm.
thankfully, it was a strong script and a strong portrayal, and it did not do that. So got to give credit there.
And props to his directing.
Indeed.
And
We'll
Scott,
get to that.
you can continue with supporting.
Sure. So I'm gonna go with Sam Elliott for me as Bobby, Jackson's brother, older. So he's sort of like his roadie manager, like head sound guy and stuff. But also, of course, like being emotional support when he can, like doing the best he can to help Jackson through his struggles and through his alcoholism and depression and so forth, and just trying to be stable there for him. But they have a bit of a falling out as well. But he's still there. He still shows up. He still helps him along, like later on. So I think he was a standout for me. But also her friend, Allie's friend Ramon, I believe you said.
Ramon, yeah.
He was like, while he wasn't there a lot, like he kept popping up. You're like, well, what happened to that guy? And he like shows up. He's like part of their entourage. It's like he was fine. Everyone else was perfectly fine as well. Like Andrew Dice, yes, as Allie's father, it was sort of like a surprise casting role, but he did a pretty good job. Like it was solid. And Matt Parkman, I don't remember his actor's name. The guy from Heroes is Jackson's driver, so like he was also briefly there. But I think everybody, it all filled out believably. And if we sort of subclassified Rez, the manager, as an antagonist, he was also sort of secondary as well. He didn't show up like after like the last maybe 40%, 30% of the film. He was just gone. But while he was there, he was fine. And like we just said, it was nice it didn't fall into the trap of him being like sort of basically Rob Lowe from fucking Wayne's World, like essentially, more or less. But no, Sam Elliott, my standout. Everyone else, solid job, solid one.
Yeah, I agree.
Probably doesn't leave much for you guys.
Dave
Sorry.
Chappelle.
Yes. Oh shit.
Oh,
Good call.
Yeah.
And Eddie Griffin were awesome in that little scene that they got. Dave Chappelle. The scene with Dave Chappelle is actually pretty touching. It was like this really
Yeah.
good heart to heart that he had with this guy that
That's
I guess
true.
he
It was a very good character
knew
moment.
from his pasts at some
I
point.
think
Was
it
he
was-
in Memphis?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it was
No,
kind of
Nashville.
Nashville, yeah.
Okay.
they were like maybe Dave Chappelle's character was formerly like a musician. as
He
well.
was. That's
Yeah.
That's what I got out of it.
So that was a really good scene. They kind of talk about life, and that's actually where he proposes and they get married. So that's kind of a big part of the movie, even though Chappelle's only in it for a few minutes, and then
It's a short but impactful sequence.
Yeah.
We'll say.
but yeah, I liked all the characters that you mentioned too. I think everybody does a good job, and they fill out the world. Sam Elliott, is one of the stronger characters in this. He has a really fleshed out life that kind of is the foil to his younger brother. And as always, Sam Elliott's mustache was on point.
It can never not be.
Yeah, and two things. I think this is probably my favorite Sam Elliott role. I think he really showed a lot of range and a lot of restraint. And Dave Chappelle was just fantastic as well.
He was spot on in his moment.
He did,
For sure.
Again, very restrained, but did so much and left such an impression. I just wanted to second those because...
Yep, I feel you.
Well, to break the restraint for a moment, drag queen entourage.
Oh, yes.
They were a major
briefly there.
They're a major part of the initial initial meeting, but they crop up every now and then for various things, and they were funny and added a lot of levity to a movie that
was otherwise
sometimes needed levity.
True, that's a good point, and we'll give them credit.
And they added a lot of heart too. Like the levity was again not an artifice.
Yeah, it felt very believable and again not like cheap or anything.
And I like the way because at one point Jackson signs her fake breasts, and when she's giving Ellie the
like
message,
FaceTiming or whatever.
She's like, "Yeah, I wore my Jackson breasts."
Yeah, Jackson tits. That was again nice moment of levity that sort of inserted very nicely.
But it was organic to the.
She's gonna make a ton of money once.
Now that he's dead.
Those tits are up on eBay right now.
The cynical side of that is, of course, that it's just.
And the Gretsch that she blinged up that he played.
Yeah.
But still sounds like ones overall for us.
Yeah.
It's ones for everybody, yeah.
Alrighty. And Steve-O, continue on with dialogue.
Moving right along. All right, so the dialogue in this was pretty damn solid. There was a lot of really good one-on-one conversations that happened throughout. And I think a lot of it is down to Bradley Cooper being really good at just like pulling off the lines that he was. I was listening to it, and there were some lines where I was like, "Man, if he wasn't so convincing as this guy,
I thought
I would
thing.
I would be almost cringing right now at how corny this would be." But he pulls them off like he believes the shit out of every word that he's saying, and that makes the difference in a movie like this. So.
It's very genuine.
I'm gonna give dialogue a 1. It's not the strongest dialogue that we've seen this year, but it's up there.
Yeah, so I'll say it's no Beale Street or anything, but there were some, like you said, some very nice moments, especially the one-on-one interactions between them, and then of course Sam Elliott, his brother, talking to him, and like even talking to her after his death. Like those are some very heartfelt moments, and yeah, it would have fallen flat were it not for the just. If not enthusiasm, but the sheer believability that they imbued with it. So I will give it a pretty solid 1 as well overall. I can't pick any lines out per se, but I did enjoy it, and it went a lot to, again, I've been saying this a lot, but when the script and the actors do a good job at selling me on the situations and the characters, then I'm probably going to give dialogue a 1. So I'm doing that same thing right here.
So I think that Bradley Cooper said to Sam Elliott, "We should sound similar because we're brothers in this."
Interesting. Yeah, it's a good point.
And Sam Elliott's like, "Well, you better match what I'm doing."
Yeah.
Because I
ain't changing for you.
You steal my voice?
Yeah.
So
that's right.
Bradley Cooper spends the entire movie doing a Sam Elliott impression. And especially when they're talking to each other, it's out-graveling each other.
Yeah.
And that's,
gravel versus gravel.
It's great. But that might be more style. This I want to talk about is when Gaga and Cooper get into that fight
in the bathroom.
Yeah,
that was intense.
Because it was very natural anger at not quite answering each other's questions, being as
they're being cagey with each other.
It's so well done that it was very tense to watch, and I love scenes that do a good combat between two good actors. So I think I'm going to give it a not a best one of all time, but still
it certainly deserves a 1.
I'm going to agree with you on the 1, and I'm also going to count the music as dialogue, and I'm also going to account.
That's a nice angle, yeah, true.
And I'm also going to account for the times when I expected dialogue and there was no dialogue, because this film. And again, knew when to put music in there, knew when to put dialogue. But there's a couple times I was expecting something, and it didn't happen. And
it was pleasantly surprising.
And I was pleasantly surprised. Yeah. So I think once again, restraint. It gets 1.
Yeah.
All right. So my thought, I didn't think about that or notice it really, but now that you mention it, that's true. It's kind of a nice little touch they've added that they didn't go overboard. So it kept it moving along very nicely.
Not exposition heavy.
Yep.
Really
True.
nice.
All right.
And it is to me with style.
Nice.
Yeah. And Bradley Cooper's directing was awesome. I think we discussed a lot of style and everything because, I mean, this movie is just, this is one of the strongest things about it. I did like his directing. The cinematography was great. It had a nice naturalistic approach. It wasn't quite cinema verite, but it was along those lines. It was, you were there without making you feel like a voyeur, and I thought it was very grounded from the beginning. It always had me. Again, music. I mean, they did a really good job putting this together. And I have to admit, when I heard that Bradley Cooper is doing A Star Is Born, he's going to co-write and he's going to direct and he's going to star with Lady Gaga.
You were like,
I was like, oh my God, this is going to be a disaster waiting to happen. And it wasn't. And I'd heard good things about it, so I was really looking forward to seeing it. It was not, going into this film, I did not expect to like it as much as I did, but I also wasn't expecting a train wreck.
Fair enough.
So I don't really think I can add more.
Well, you got a train wreck in Bradley Cooper's character.
Well, yeah.
It's not in the way you were
in
expecting.
the character, not into the, yeah.
Just turn off your mic.
No.
No, I just couldn't hear you.
All right. He's just speaking he's like graveling it up over there. But
I'm sorry.
yeah,
We stole his voice.
I was going to say, it was almost like Batman sings country is what my joke is going to be, like Christian Bale Batman style. But no, like two style, saying of that word, that I wasn't like blown away by any of it, but it was perfectly like manageable. And I will say though, there were one or two shots that stood out to me. One of which is that when they're on the tour bus, and it's a tour bus driving like on a long country road, but like the sunrise is reflected on the bus. If you guys remember that at all, well, I thought that was pretty fucking cool.
It was while he was singing the song.
Yeah.
What song was that? It was the song
I
that
don't
he
remember
played.
which song it was. But
It was the song that he played on the guitar that the drag queen gave him in the beginning. That he played for.
It was a callback to a song he had performed earlier,
Yeah.
one of Jackson's, like one-on singles. But I thought all I'm saying is that was a cool shot. Everything else is perfectly fine. Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised, as you said, Chris, by his directing, and it was damn enjoyable. And I'll leave more of the soundtrack for you guys, or for you.
Well,
specifically,
I
perhaps,
do want to say one thing about style. Occasionally, especially when they're dealing with concerts, it almost felt like a documentary, a well-produced documentary about this band we're following.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that's maybe 10% if less of the film.
Not overly so,
but it gives you that sense of a more intimate look at their like kind of the behind the scenes look into their world, which worked really well. So that's all I have to add to
I
it.
like a good call on that, and I'm definitely giving style a pretty strong one.
And there's another thing. This could have actually, and a lesser director could have been MTV Cribs.
Sure.
Could have been.
I think an interesting thing is the music scenes in this are really well done, and I guess Bradley Cooper knows how to play guitar because they don't really cut away from him.
No, he does. We looked it up, I believe.
It looks like he's
playing it. Yes.
kind of, I wouldn't probably notice if he wasn't, but it looks like he's playing the songs a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
It cuts to like his hands on the frets and everything, and I mean, there's a lot to. I think that helps a lot when you have somebody who knows what the hell they're doing.
Sure, it just builds up the
in the same way as like if you're watching a sports movie and you can tell the person doesn't know how to throw, it's very obvious. Like if you had to cut away every 3 seconds from him playing guitar,
It would have been
really take
distracting
something
and
away
stupid.
from those scenes. So I thought those were done really well, and the music itself was really well done.
Before you go on, I'm sorry. I was going to say it's an original soundtrack composed by them, and also like they had a bunch of other pop stars and musicians come in to round it out. So I believe it is him.
Scott, when we were watching, like one of the early scenes while we were watching this, you said something akin to, "Oh, he's just showing off now."
Yeah, I said self-indulgent or something like that. Yes, sure.
Yeah,
but no, I mean, to be fair, I came around to the way of thinking like, yeah, it's damn solid, and the songs were enjoyable and well written, well composed. And again, because of that, what you just said, Steve-O, it added to the believability of buying into these characters' worlds and lives and them being musicians and the songs they were performing.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and they didn't. I'm sure they didn't need to tell Lady Gaga how to do anything. She was basically
No,
being
they probably
herself.
just gave her the songs
Yeah.
and were like, or maybe she probably, like I said, she probably almost certainly contributed to composing and performing them.
Yeah.
So,
I would believe that.
so yeah, damn solid one
One's all
for
around.
that.
Cool.
All right.
And Mr. Manzer, would you recommend this?
Yeah.
That's exactly what I actually.
I'm kind of surprised about it, but I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. It's funny. I was listening to some radio show on Sirius XM, and a guest on there was like, "Yeah, Bradley Cooper commits suicide at the end of this." And everyone was like, "Whoa, spoilers much?"
Yeah,
I'm like,
Jesus.
well, now I'm kind of looking forward to seeing this to see how. I had never seen a Star is
Previous
Born,
iterations. Yeah.
any of the 500 that exist out there, and overall, I liked Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper. I believed their chemistry. They acted well. Or especially Bradley Cooper, I could see the love in his face, and I believed everything about the two of them and their growth together. And that's really the crux of everything, is believing their core relationship.
Yeah.
And I think
And they pulled it off.
It's a good movie to watch if you like kind of faux musicals. There you go. If you want a good drama, it works. Yeah, so sure, yeah. Definitely watch this.
That's almost my exact. I'm going to recommend it. Yes. Like, sure, it's fine. I was almost like neutral. Like, well, we got to cover it because it's an Oscar film, almost assuredly. So, like, fine. I wasn't like dragging my feet, like dreading it. But now having seen it, like, you know what? It's solid enough. Was it like my top couple of Oscar films or Oscar-ish films this season?
No.
Probably not. But I in no way would say it's ever a bad film, and it's worth checking out. It just, I will say, I'm thankful it's not La La Land, because it is not a full-on musical, and I did not like La La Land all that much because I just don't like musicals. I understand that's my bias. But Star is Born, perfectly fine, has music, but isn't a musical, and it all works very well. And everything you said about the characters is completely true. I completely agree.
Yeah, I kind of have almost the same reaction. I was like, would you recommend it? Yeah,
Sure, it's worth it.
yeah. It's definitely worth a watch. I mean, again, it's not gonna like breach one of my like top 3 movies of the year,
Exactly.
but it's good. I mean, I'm not pissed that everybody in the world is trying to get this movie a Best
Talking it up.
Picture.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be my choice per se for the Best Picture, but like I can see why everybody loves it so
completely
much.
comfortable with it being in the mix.
And I think a lot of it is that it's more like an emotional heartstring pulling movie than I usually like. And to me, even if it's not that cheap, as we've said, it always kind of feels cheap, like a little bit,
just by nature of it. Yeah.
right? So I mean, I my brain goes that way, but watch it. Shit, it's pretty good.
Full disclosure, I mean, I did want to see this movie, but I was adamant about being on this one because, last week I was sick, and I was looking back at the reviews we did, and I'm like, wow, except for BlacKkKlansman, all my movies this year have been like science fiction, horror, or superheroes. I'm like, I've got to do another
a real movie every once in a while.
I've got to actually see a real movie, and I did want to see this, and as I think we've all said, we were all pleasantly surprised with this. I am totally going to recommend this movie. But again, I came into this because you guys saw The Favorite, and the last couple movies I really wanted to see but couldn't make.
Actually, Beale Street's what you should.
Well, yeah, Beale Street is what I'm definitely going to see next. But I did want to see Beale Street. I did want to see Favorite. So I'm like, all right, I got to at least see Star is Born, and I'm really happy I could sit here and say I really thought this movie's great, and I wholeheartedly recommend it.
All right, very nice. Who does it leave us?
Well, this leaves us with a 9. Hold on a second.
Let's see if we can do the math.
Yeah, I am.
I'll sing you a song while
A
you do the math.
9.25.
Yes,
Yep.
it does.
That's
And I think that's
10 for
damn
Chris,
worth it.
9 for the rest of
Yeah.
us.
Yep. Is that how it broke down? Yeah.
That is exactly how I broke down.
And that's perfectly fine. Like, I think, yeah, it's a strong film. While not my personal favorite, like we kind of just said, it definitely should be in the mix. And if it's if it wins, fine, but it's certainly worth it overall,
Mm.
and was well done.
Okay,
Nothing further.
I have no final thoughts, really.
Mr. Manzer, any final thoughts?
No.
Okay.
Best answer to that.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I am still Chris Morgan, and I've been here with Jonathan Ian Manzer
Keep an eye out for my new pop-out.
Mhm.
and Scott Thurlow,
And I'll
and
be-
and most recent murder. Okay, and Scott
And I'll
Thurlow
be going on tour separately as well.
and Stephen Hermosi.
Have a good night. No encores.
See you next time.
Editing and engineering by Christopher Morgan. Music by Christopher Morgan. Check us out on YouTube and iTunes for the shows, and on Facebook and Twitter for updates. Or Mott's?